Relationships. After a couple of exchanges with a friend, she asked me, why don't you do a video about relationships? So here we go. And if this is your first video, you can follow me on Instagram. I do a video a day about everything life and work and everything. And also on Facebook. Well, obviously relationship, like any of the topics, is a huge topic, but ultimately they're all connected. So how you show up in work is gonna affect your relationship. So all of these topics are connected, and like everything that touches life, our lives, is connected. And similar rules apply to similar things, because all it involves humans and all involves you. So along the videos, there will be some recurring patterns, obviously different in different areas, but you will see the same pattern appearing. And so same thing with relationships. Why are relationships so difficult? Well, relationships are actually not difficult once we start looking inside, and I'm sure you heard that before. The reason is, when we are broken or suffering or in pain, and we might not even be aware of that because it has been ongoing, we might not even know that it's a different place. But usually we do know. We might not be able to pinpoint to where it is, those pain. Anyway, we all have them. Some have less of them, some have more of them because of what happened to them in life. Also some have worked to kind of get out of them, others have less. But anyway, on a continuum from 0 to like excruciating pain and like suicidal thoughts, we're all somewhere on this scale, and we move back and forth. And so when you are not happy and in love with yourself, literally, then you will bring the problems into your relationship, and so does the other person. And then, then you're going into a negative spiral, and you're just accelerating, and then it's just a question of time once it's over. So if you're having difficulties staying in relationships, or getting into relationships, enjoying relationships, it all starts with you. Like it has nothing to do with the other person. Doesn't mean the other person doesn't do anything to you that's bad or so, but it means you attract that person into your life because of your state, and you react to that person because of your state. So if you want to have healthier relationships, or attract, let's say, more resolved and happy and fulfilled people, you need to provide that, right? Because if a person is like in a great place and you are not, that is very unattractive to the other person. Like, why would I choose to be with someone that is struggling in life? Especially in if you want to go into a romantic context, you spend so much time together, right? It's so intimate. Like you live together, you sleep together. So obviously, our criteria is much higher than kind of just a friend that I see once a week. So to attract like a good mate, you need to be in a good place. And the beauty about that is you have full control over it. So people say like, oh, what am I doing wrong in relationships? Why am I always getting the asshole? Why am I always getting the bitch? Whatever the word is, or whatever you're thinking in your head. Well, the answer is you kind of get what you send out and attract. And that doesn't mean you are that bad person, but it just means you attract that person. So if you, for example, let's say you're a girl, and I could make examples for any gender, but I'm just like, that came first to mind. If you're a girl and you had a really bad relationship with your father, or no relationship with your father, you're most likely, or you didn't get any love from your father, you're most likely to look for an authoritative figure. And an authoritative figure tells you kind of what to do, and the extreme form that it takes, light in this direction is much better. Can be a very dominant, but then it can be a negative dominance. So that person kind of treats you badly, and because you allow that treatment, that authority, it just goes more and more. On the first date it will be very subtle, but then you create that dynamic, or you let that dynamic play out, and then it becomes, in the worst case, it becomes this abusive relationship, etc., etc., etc. And then maybe at the same time you have this fear of being alone, again, because of what has happened in your life. And so you don't let go of that relationship, because obviously the moment a relationship has a negative dynamic, you should let that person go. for both sides, right? If a relationship is negative for one side, it means it's negative for both sides. And but we don't, or most of us don't. And usually because we have fear of being alone, and we have a fear of being alone because, again, we haven't taken care of ourselves. Like, you can be in a beautiful, we don't need someone to be happy. Like, that's the starting point. And that sounds preposterous, and you might say, oh, that's against nature. We are meant to, yes, nature wants us to do a lot of things, but not to be happy. Because when you are happy, you stop kind of chasing. Like, it's your primal drive to be unhappy. The reason, for example, it's much more exciting to think about to meet someone you love, or maybe someone new, or to think about that chocolate cake or that promotion, etc. Then you have a quick high, and your brain flushes all these chemicals, and you're like, wow, it's so great, that feeling. And then it wears off because your body wants again to go into claim more of it, because that's about survival. So very basic stuff. So if for whatever reason you have a fear of being alone, you won't let that person go, because then you're alone, and then you're even less worthy, even though you might consciously know that it's better to be not in that bad relationship. But again, that's also a recurring theme. We think we make conscious decisions, but our decisions are made emotionally and in the body, and you could say in the heart. And so that is not a rational act, but that is the foundation, what drives us, what impacts our decision. The rational part is done ex post, after the decision. So then we rationalize, oh, of course I'm with this person, or I'm doing this job, even though I don't like it, because A, B, C, and D. We justify it to ourselves rationally, but actually the decision is always an emotional and kind of more primal one. And realizing that is the first step to kind of overriding that system, because that system has not been developed for the 21st century, how the time of our life we have created. You kind of need to override it and reprogram your brain to be compatible to thrive in this type of environment we have created. That lifestyle with technology and the ability, it's not about survival, but it's rather about thriving. And so you need to switch off these kind of survival driven mechanisms, or at least kind of calm them down. And so again, same theme, but for relationships. So would be great now to have like some specific cases, what is difficult in relationships. I mean, there's so many things, right? But you basically will attract whatever you send out. So you need to understand what is putting you in a state that you can't be by yourself. Because you can be perfectly happy, you can be ecstatic by yourself. That doesn't mean you don't want to be in a relationship, because you can go even to higher levels. But if you go into a relationship to compensate something that you don't feel, or that you don't have, then that relationship has this huge leverage unconsciously. I'm not even saying the guy or the girl that you're with is going to abuse it, but it ultimately will lead to that, because you're exposing yourself. Well, actually it's not about exposing, but because you're depending on that relationship to fulfill a hole that you have. So the much better, and you can't depend on that because it's another person, it's outside of you, and they will do whatever is going on with them, right? So doesn't mean you can't be in a loving relationship, but you shouldn't be depending on another person, because then if that is taken away, you suffer really badly and you fall really deeply, and there's no need to it. It's just about learning to take care of yourself. And once you've taken care of yourself properly, and will be covered in many, will be a recurring theme, and we'll look at all aspects of how to do that and how to get there. But it's the first is a decision to take care of yourself, to learn how to love yourself. And that might sound kind of esoteric or philosophical. Well, actually everything we do here is philosophy, but it's practical life philosophy, so it's super relevant and it should be taught in school. So you need to learn to take care of yourself and say and not just believe, you need to really believe it and embody it. Like, you need to feel ecstatic about yourself and life and all of that, and then everything changes and life will never be the same again.